Andy Serketich is here.
Yes,
He's
he
the
is.
head coach of the men's golf team. Andy Serk also happens to be still the head coach of the reigning conference champions.
That's right.
Not that you wanted it to end that way, not that you like this whole situation and circumstance that we are under, but Andy, you are still the head coach of the conference champs.
It's better than not being it, so we'll take it.
So let's talk a little bit about golf, about life, about your team. First, about golf, because it is one of the few sports that you can play and properly socially distance.
Yep.
How many times have you played since cancellation?
A lot more than I was before. I've probably played 4 18-hole rounds and 2 9 to 12-hole rounds. Something like that.
12-hole rounds?
You know, like at Raintree South, there's like a 12-hole loop. Like I've done that a few times.
And you peel off.
Yeah. Just because the tee sheets are so busy, like it's hard to get, a tee time.
Well, it's funny because with all the government mandated shutdowns, the sport of golf is one that you can actually legitimately socially distance and play. And or given the fact that most people are pent up in a small house or apartment, like me and the dog chilling in a 1-bedroom apartment here, it's not a whole lot of space. And every once in a while we need some fresh air. It actually was deemed an essential leisure activity that's safe, unlike volleyball, unlike basketball, where you see courts and nets getting shut down at local parks.
Yeah.
So, we have done our best to socially distance. We have done our best to quarantine, but I do have to admit, you and I went out and played around yesterday. We did.
The National.
At Charlotte National. First time there for you. Best greens in the city, I think, among public courses, just to be honest. They're incredibly fast. How's your game going?
Well, yesterday was pretty good.
Much, so
yesterday was pretty good.
What was your final number yesterday?
68.
So what? 3-4 under?
Back nine.
Back nine's tougher.
Yeah, it was 4 under and
4 under par.
Yeah.
Allow me to share with our audience that you birdied the final 3 holes to turn in 32, 4 under. Is that correct? Of the front 9?
Yeah, definitely the last 2. It might have been 3 out of the last 4, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Andy's game is in a better state than it had ever been because of quarantine life. This is as good as since he was a player at Queens.
I don't know if I can go that far. Usually right when you graduate, like you get really good, right after you graduate. And so then for a few years, you're pretty good.
Yeah.
Then, you get into coaching and you're there all the time, but you don't get to play or practice much yourself. But yeah, yesterday was a lot of fun. The last time I played wasn't quite as good. So
okay. I'm still fighting off early season feel issues, but that my game's not as good as yours. It never has been, never will be. I just hope that one day when you are prepared to make your debut on the Corn Ferry Tour, you consider me to be your caddy. That's all.
You're top of the list right now.
Like what you mentioned, though, it kind of reminds me of being a kid. And we used to sneak onto the green course at Bethpage. There was right off the road, Melville Road there was a gate that was trampled down because there was a hill to the, I believe it was the 10th tee box, that on snowy days, everybody used to gather and sled down the hill. This was maybe 5-10 minutes from my parents' house. And so we used to sneak on occasionally, and we would play like 8 or 9 through 17, which was on that side of the road. Actually, I think we would go from 17 then back to 2. So basically you played everything on that side of the road except for 1 and 18, which are by the clubhouse on the other side of Round Swamp Road. Very similar setup to the Black Course there. It runs right next to the Black Course where the starting and the last holes are on the initial side of the road, and then there's kind of the offshoot side. And that's what we would do. We would sneak on and we would play during the summers every once in a while.
That's awesome.
So that's what you've been doing at the tree, but you at least had clearance to do it. I was technically breaking the law. Let's talk about the sport of golf. We got a good announcement this morning as we record it on Monday the 6th. There is a plan to play the major championships, the Masters in November. You've got your Augusta National shirt on. When'd you get that? Last year?
Last year. Yep.
Okay. What do you think about the new golf schedule? We'll have, similar to when it would be in the spring, we'll have a major championship, it seems, each month, but it's going to be sandwiched around potentially FedEx Cup playoffs. It's going to be sandwiched around the Ryder Cup. As a golf fan, what do you think of the announcement that you heard today? A Masters in November, U.S. Open, and PGA Championship will also be August, September back-to-back.
Yeah, so obviously it'll be weird. I think the other piece was there's no British Open this year. That was kind of the bad news that came out today. So that'll be kind of odd not to have a British Open. But to your point, having a PGA in August, which is traditionally when it used to be anyways until last year, and then U.S. Open will be in September, it sounds like, and then the Masters in November with the Ryder Cup and all the FedEx Cup playoffs. It'll be interesting to see how golf does up against all the other sports that are going to be in season when traditionally, like, we'd be getting ready for all of our stuff now throughout the summer. But as a golf fan, I can't wait to watch them. So I'll be
me too,
regardless of whatever else is going on.
And I tell everybody, I love the game of golf. I enjoy playing it. I enjoy watching it. There are a lot of sports that would be near the top of my list right alongside golf. But as a fan, a part of the viewing public, there is not a better theater on television than a close, contentious final day of a major championship. Especially if the big names such as Tiger, Phil, Rory, Spieth are in it, specifically Tiger, like last year at Augusta. He is still the reigning champ. But there's nothing like that. There's nothing like that in sports. It doesn't get any better.
Doesn't get any better, especially for you and me. I mean, if you know much about golf, like it's the best when you're seeing those guys down the stretch. Like you said, when you got multiple guys in contention, that's what I hope for every major. So
yeah. So it's our attention span for sports is somehow gonna have to balance potentially in September and October, November, the height of the PGA Tour / major championship season, the height of the tennis Grand Slam season, in addition to what's probably going to be, we expect, a standard start to college football, standard start to the NFL. I wouldn't be shocked to see the NBA and the NHL throw some kind of tournament in there. Major League Baseball will probably have an abbreviated season. It's going to be a lot of fun. How the heck are we going to focus on watching golf in addition to the Queen's Athletics season starting?
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah. We'll have to record a lot of sports. We'll be DVRing a lot of sports, so can't wait.
Your team, pretty good season this year. On the heels of the conference championship last year. Up to 19 in the country, right when this hit?
Yeah. Via Golf Stat, up to 19. I think Golf Week had us low 20s. So, yeah, both polls had us ranked top 25.
Unlike other teams, you're lucky, though. You don't have any seniors, at least not in your starting five. Correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, out of my 10, I didn't have any seniors, so everybody's coming back. 7 of those 10 were freshmen, so to start the year was a little curious what that was going to look like. But now, all in all, we had a pretty solid year.
Yeah. And you had told me when we were out on the course yesterday that it was rounding into form as well. You were obviously unaware of what might happen. You didn't have many expectations for the freshmen, but you just come off of your best performance of the season. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we played a Division I tournament in Myrtle Beach.
Who was in it?
Well, App State was the host. There was 15 other schools there. We're the only Division II there.
Oh, wow.
Schools from kind of eastern side of the states, and then up into the Midwest a little bit. Honestly, didn't know what to expect from. We haven't played a tournament with them. We finished 6th out of the 15.
With
Under par.
14 other D1s there. So
yeah.
15 teams, 14 D1s, you finished 6th.
Yep. Yep.
So you beat, let me do some quick math, what, 9 D1s?
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was cool. We played some individuals from like the big schools like Wake and Hill.
Yeah.
They all sent some indies over, and a couple of our guys beat their indies, which was pretty cool. We finished under par for the tournament as a team, which is the first time we've done that since I've been back as a head coach. So that was good.
Wow.
Kind of about time, but
Year 3.
Year 3, but we did it. So that was awesome. And that's kind of what I envisioned us being able to do. We finally just did it over 3 rounds for 4 guys, which, as we've talked about before, is it's tough to do.
You got a couple of guys from the UK on your team. Did they stay or go back home?
Ellis is still here from Wales. He stayed. He's hoping to head back, which would have been like just at the end of the year, late April, early May. Ollie did go home, so he's back in England. Everybody's doing well on both sides. Talking to like Ollie and his family and Ellis's family. Everybody's doing good.
Okay, that's good.
They got a little bit more of a stay at home than we do here in Charlotte, even though we have it. Like courses are closed there.
Yeah.
But everybody's doing well so far, which is good.
How do you get them to stay sharp? Because as you mentioned, even if the courses are open, most places, practice facilities are shut down. I mean, where I live, the driving range across the street, closed.
Yeah.
You go to a local course, it's almost impossible to get a tee time right now because people are so bored sitting at home during quarantine. This is a leisure activity that they can safely participate in, and they're taking advantage of that. So how do you do it?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the diehards, we can do a lot of stuff. Even like if you have a pretty tall mirror, you can do a lot of swing work just in the mirror. Obviously, some of these guys like Ollie has a net back home.
Good.
Logan up in Toronto has a net set up. I think Brock is just hitting balls out of his backyard onto a course and then going to get them.
Does he have enough room for that?
I don't think he's hitting many drivers.
The bombs he hits, okay.
Yeah, he's pretty good with everything else. But
up in Wisconsin, he went back home to Wisconsin.
Back home, yeah. So really, the guys, we have Taisuke and Ellis that are here, but yeah, they're a little bit more stuck because we're normally.
Taisuke is from Tokyo. He stayed.
Yep, he's here. Okay. He's got an apartment off campus. So obviously, like we were hoping maybe our hitting room would be available to those guys, but we can't go on campus. Yeah. So they've just been at the mercy of those late twilight tee times, which thankfully at least our courses are open.
Yeah. So, your partners that you range tree in can get them in there.
Yeah, exactly. So they've been kind enough to we have 4 guys here, so they've been kind enough to let us come out when they have the opportunity to. So it's best we can do for right now.
Yeah. And I guess whenever it is that your competition resumes, which most likely will be in the fall, most likely, there's always a chance all that gets pushed back, but we'll plan on the fall. You'll have a spring training of sorts to get them back in the groove. But I can't help but imagine that just like every other sport, especially with golf, which is such a skill-based sport where one little stroke, thing that you wouldn't even think of, could potentially ruin the outcome. I mean, you won your conference championship by a shot last year. For a sport that is so skill-based, I feel like this lull and dead period might be more detrimental to individual athletes than any other sport.
Could be. We'll probably just focus on, once we're able to, like our guys are going to be gung-ho to get back out there and play and practice. So I don't anticipate any issues with our guys getting back ready. They're already excited to do it. So
yeah,
you're right. We'll probably just really focus on our fundamentals and mechanics when we get our hands on them when they get back. But in the meantime, I trust our guys. They're going to be doing the right stuff. like I said, they're just excited to get back going.
Okay, but personal example, you saw my front nine yesterday. You saw how I've touched my clubs 3 times since the NCAA tournament was canceled and eventually all winter and spring sports were shut down. I've touched my clubs 3 times. Quick session at the driving range before the driving range closed down, and then a round on the course, and then another round on the course a week later with you. The issue that I'm having is that maybe Taisuke can empathize in a way. I'm stuck in a 1-bedroom apartment. I don't have a backyard or a green area that I can go and chip on. Everything 75 to 50 yards and in, I have no feel for. I'm flubbing everything. Now, I am by no means as good of a player as you or Taisuke, most of your guys. But what was once a strong suit of my game, I can't go practice because of this unless I'm playing on the course, so I can't score well. And I just wonder if that's something. I know that I can't be the only individual in the world that's feeling that, and I wonder if that's something that could potentially harm your guys and your playing competitors. And it's not necessarily that they can't get the feel back. It's probably more of that here they are losing 3, 4, maybe 5, 6 months of developing skills during their 4-year college career.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. I think part of it is just the condition of the course we played yesterday. We've run into that the last couple springs when it is really wet out and bare grass. Everybody struggles to chip. It doesn't matter if you're Tiger or you, me. It's just you have to be so precise. Otherwise, it's going to go either a foot in front of you or it's going to go over the green.
Yeah.
So part of it is conditions. Other part of it is a little bit technique, which I think next time we play, if we just did a couple of things, we could get your chipping going. It already even did towards the end of the round, just with the 1 or 2.
Hey, man, I was on the bogey train on the back nine, and that's not bad for me, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
I did end well. The back nine, I ended well. It was the first time I really tried to keep a score in my 2 rounds this year, and it ended well.
Yeah.
So are you saying that my problems yesterday were me? That I'm making excuses and they're not? Is that what you're saying?
No, the opposite. I think some of it was out of your hands.
Okay.
And, yeah, even down the stretch, you started to play much better.
Yeah. Shout out Italy. They're going through a tough time, too.
Shout out Italy.
Got the Italy mug. I know it's a place that I'm fond of. Heritage. You're fond of. You've been. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about your time as a student at Queens. I don't know that we have had a chance to talk a lot about that on the record. But for you, you've said plenty of times that coaching at Queens and being the head coach at Queens is kind of a dream because that's where you played as a student. You did go to Italy, is that correct?
I did, yeah. Did a JBIB trip, which is our kind of international student experience program. Went to Italy, so that's right in between junior, senior year.
Okay.
And I would pick that trip every time. If I could go back and if I had a chance to still do, I would always pick that one. I wouldn't pick all the other ones, which, I mean, I'm sure those other trips are great, but Italy is amazing. So I would always go back.
Best thing about your trip to Italy? I don't think you brought your clubs. I don't think you brought your clubs.
No, yeah. Honestly, the only time we actually even talked about golf, I had a teammate with me on the trip. The only time we actually talked about, we saw on the top of Mount Vesuvius, which is a volcano. We saw, I was wearing a tiger hat, and we saw another guy wearing a tiger hat, and we're like, you're a golfer. Where do you play golf around here? And he's like, well, there's not that many courses, but there are a few once you get away from some of the cities. And honestly, that was the only time we even talked about golf the whole trip. But it was – and that was probably when the Molinaris and these guys were kind of growing up and kind of – so obviously people play. We had a guy graduate 2014 from Italy, 2015 maybe. So it's nice that we checked that box. Actually went back to Italy a couple of years ago and saw him.
Really?
And, So it was Oh man, favorite part. I mean, seeing the Vatican, well, Rome in general, but the Vatican specifically
Mhm.
is like,
One of those places where you can be inside and it's breathtaking.
yeah.
Just
Even
the
just looking
artwork.
at it, just getting into the
Yeah.
square, it's just like so big. It's so impressive. Yeah,
And you don't have to be religious. You don't even have to be a Christian to enjoy it, to appreciate it. It's really a fascinating place.
yeah, yeah. When you hear the history about like, and I don't know it off the top of my head now, but when it was made, how long it took to make it, it is really impressive, regardless, like you said, of any kind of background.
Did you walk to the top of the dome?
Yeah, that was a fun
I
story
would never
too. I
do
mean,
that.
once you get to the top of the dome, it gets
Yeah,
you have
it's
to.
claustrophobic.
Yeah, and I was, for whatever reason, leading kind of our group, and a professor chaperone was a few people behind me, and we're getting up, and all of a sudden it just stops. We can't move.
Mhm.
And Professor Campbell's like, Andy, what's going on up there? And I was like, I don't know. We're just kind of stuck right now. Everybody's kind of just standing here. She's like, we better start pushing because otherwise I'm gonna start pushing, and that won't be good for anybody. And I'm like, what do I do?
It's
But thankfully we
but
started moving pretty
there are
quick.
limited entrances and exits, and they're so tight and cramped that everybody slows down. And I know exactly what I was there this summer, did the walk to the top, and um, the air gets a little bit light when you start getting up there. And
Yeah, I'm glad you've been able to experience it because it is like, yeah, until you do, it's kind of hard to explain, but it
yeah,
is like and like if somebody didn't need attention, like it would be hard to figure out how they get up there. It
yeah,
really is. I think the one way you can go each way, up and
yeah.
down.
No, that's it. That's it. And it's a long way, but my step count that day, well, my step count as a whole each day in Rome was about 36,000, which is ridiculous. But yeah, yeah.
Do you remember seeing like how many floors you went up that day? Like when we did it, it was like 30 some floors. It was just
Um,
outrageous.
well, I mean, I don't know that you have a count on it.
Yeah, the iPhone actually does kind of try
Oh,
to,
does it?
it tries
I'm
to,
Team Droid over here. Yeah. Sorry, bud. That's what we do.
yeah,
But
you're good.
it did track that I took 22,000 steps yesterday, about 18 or 19,000 on the golf course. So, golf, socially distancing while playing golf. What do you think about what some of the local courses have done? It's about as much as you can do while still keeping it safe, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when we
One
played here,
person per cart.
yeah, one person per cart.
Encourages walking, which down south, that's not really a thing. That's what I've noticed. Being from New York, the courses are on more sprawling properties of land. There's longer walks between greens and tee boxes. And so, especially when it gets so hot during the summer, walking and playing is not really a massive part of the culture down here, but that's now being encouraged.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and like you said too, I mean, some of the courses go through neighborhoods and stuff where
Yeah.
it's brutal to walk because you're adding on multiple miles just to, and you're trying to play at a good pace. It makes sense to ride normally in normal conditions, but this isn't normal. So, yeah, yesterday we played a walker friendly course for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't touch anybody else. Like all you did was touch your own stuff. Like,
Yeah, I don't think I came within 3 or 4 feet of anybody. And if I'm listening to CDC recommendations properly, the whole idea of wearing some kind of face covering is that you don't project any type of discharge from your body that you wouldn't necessarily expect or think about just in talking and breathing. But when we were walking side by side up the fairway, me, you, Coach Jeremy Price of the men's volleyball team, we'll have him on one of these interviews soon. When we're walking side by side up the fairway, that's we're looking straight ahead. So we're not even worried about projecting anything onto each other. And then this is really cool. Some places have used PVC pipe. The course that we were at yesterday used a cut down, those noodles, the fanoodles, I think they call them, for the pool. Yeah. And they place it in the cup so the ball can't actually go to the bottom. And the there's a kind of a local course rule now. You can't touch the flagstick. You have to putt with the flagstick in. And we literally didn't touch anything that anyone else touched all day.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Obviously, I would prefer to take the flagstick out to putt, but 2019, 2020, you don't have to. And obviously, with this, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was like you said. They're doing everything that they can do to make it as safe as possible, and yet we can still play, which is great. So I'm thankful. I know you're thankful, and hopefully we can keep doing it.
You know, supposedly, scientifically, having the flagstick in to putt actually is an advantage. For me, I grew up without it, so visually it was awkward, especially on unmakeable putts, say 10 feet and in.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you think, in the way in which people are talking about how this could change society for a while, for example, pregame handshakes are most likely gone. Handshaking in general, it might become professional courtesy to just stand 3 feet away from somebody and wave and not actually shake their hand, even in a professional setting. Could this change the game of golf? Could we see now, hey, flagstick permanently stays in? Do you think that's a thing?
That's a good question. I don't know that they need to do – I mean, maybe for the first couple months or whatever, maybe the rest of this year. But I think if we do get a grip on the coronavirus and COVID-19, that we get, like you said yesterday, immunization or much better treatment or stuff like that, I think you can kind of go back to rakes in the bunkers, taking the flagstick out, that stuff. I mean –
And that's the biggest detriment, is that there were bad lies in the bunker because they're asking everybody to use their foot to rake the sand and their club face to rake the sand and not to use a rake. In fact, they have pulled all rakes from the courses locally.
Yeah, exactly, which I get it. It makes sense for right now. I just think hopefully by the end of the year we'll be able to get back to what we're used to.
I guess the only thing that I would add, similar to the resumption of sports across the board, is that this is a scary virus, and that in the way in which it's transmitted and the rate at which it is transmitted from person to person. And the fact that something like this, COVID-20, COVID-21, the next year or two down the line, something similar like this could happen. This isn't by no means the first major scary epidemic in our lifetimes, but we haven't had really a pandemic of this magnitude in 102 years. Yeah. So I'll be interested to see. I do wonder, obviously the schedules for professional golf have changed. I wonder what might trickle down to the recreational level. And I wonder if that's something that the organizing bodies, the USGA, the RNA, and potentially even at the college level, the NCAA would consider.
Yeah, I guess what do you – yeah, it's true. I don't know exactly what you mean, but, yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of what comes out of this. I mean, you're spot on with not sure what's going to happen, obviously, next year and years forward, but –
will it be courtesy? Courtesy has always been take your hat off, shake the hand of your opponent, their caddy. Could that be gone from the game? Just little intricacy that I'm wondering. Yeah,
I'll certainly keep you posted. I've not seen anything from our Golf Coaches Association yet or anything from the NCAA yet on that. We'll just have to wait and see.
Favorite Masters memory? I know you went last year.
Yeah.
What's thing about it?
Well, I'm excited to see that Tiger chip in on 16 again sometime this week. That was probably one of my favorites. That was just, like you said before,
that was 05.
05, yeah. He's in contention, but not even in the lead. Like, he's like one back, tie for lead, whatever it is. And, I mean, that chip was just
in your life. Have you seen anything like that?
Yeah, in your life. So, yeah, that was – I mean, the shot Phil hit from the pine straw in 13, I don't remember exactly what year that was, 06 maybe. I don't remember, but that was top class too.
Okay, before we depart, you want my favorite, my least favorite Masters
What's your least
memory?
favorite?
My least favorite Masters memory was in the lead up to 2016. I was watching a ton of Golf Channel. I was sitting, I think, on the couch of my parents' house every morning watching European Tour. And I'm watching Danny Willett make his name known every single week. Next thing you know, Danny Willett is up to number 9 in the world. I start telling everybody for weeks, this guy is good. Watch out for him at Augusta. He backdoors a win, and I didn't put any money on it. How stupid was I?
Spieth probably still.
He choked that away.
That's tough. But yeah, that's a good call on your part.
I'll never do anything like that again.
That would have been a good one because his odds are probably pretty strong in your favor.
Yeah, I would have. I may have been able to retire, and I was like 23 years old at the time. Yeah, that was that kind of. That was unexpected.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, this was good.
Yeah,
Popping it up with Andrew Serketich. So what's next? When's your next round of golf?
Well, hopefully with you guys sometime, whether it's this weekend or whenever. But I might play 9 later. Might be on the books. The weather this week looks fantastic, so that's kind of tough because that means everybody else is going to be wanting to do the same thing. I don't think I'll get 18 holes in this week, just with tee times. I don't think unless we go to a public place and pay to play. Yeah, so just one day at a time. Yeah, we'll see.
Andy Serketich, head men's golf coach. Enjoy quarantine life.
Yeah.
Sanitize your clubs. Keep changing out your glove.
Yeah.
Get them straight.
Yeah. Phil, I appreciate it. I just want to say real quick, just to touch back on our year.
Yeah.
Kind of tie in like my student experience, whatever. Like we had 3 different guys shoot 65 or less this year, which
wasn't the record 64 prior to this year?
The record before this year was 64. Yep. And then TK shot 63 at Innisbrook, Copperhead, PGA Tour event.
PGA Tour.
Yep. And he won that tournament by 9 or something outrageous with a 63.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Ollie, our freshman, shot 65 in the fall at the conference preview, which he finished second individually, and that would have been fun to see him have a chance at that one. Actually, would have been next week. And then Ellis, the last tournament we played in March, he shot 65 the last day, which was the round of the day, again, in a D1 full field with really good players. He had the round of the day.
So what you're telling me is like I should be ready for fireworks from the Queens men's golf team next year. And in my preparation to broadcast the Queens Invitational,
shout out.
Knock on wood, hopefully that happens again.
Yeah, exactly.
In my preparation to broadcast that, I shouldn't be shocked if I see some phenomenal play from the Queens.
Yeah, it's exciting because obviously all those guys are back, and it wouldn't have surprised me if we had even another one before the end of the year. Just with the talent that we have, it's impressive. Which my teams, we had a lot of talent as well. I don't know that we were quite that good.
Is this okay? So number 19, from what we believe, might end up being shortened season, but might end up being the best finish in the history of the program. Could this have been the best team in the history of the program?
Yeah, I think so.
You've been around it for a while. Student,
assistant
coach, now as head coach.
Yeah, I think 1 through 5, like any of those guys can shoot mid-60s any given day.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. Like we've always had a couple of guys, maybe 3 guys that could do it. But as you know, you need a 4 score. And 1 through 5, like, Ellis was our 5 guy that last day and shot 65. And had a few other coaches reach out and be like, did your 5 guys shoot 65 today? And I was like, he did. So he's not typically our 5 guy, but still that was pretty – and that's what the best teams do. Like the best teams are able to do that. So it's encouraging. We got 3 good guys coming in. So competition.
Did he do that with a 7-iron around?
He wishes he did not do it. He wishes he did.
Well, best of luck making sure you're not pronating or, in the mirror tonight when you're doing your swing work.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I can't wait to watch all these reruns of Masters final rounds this week.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, me too. I've got that is scheduled. That's how I'm spending my weekend, basically 4 straight days of watching reruns. And we get, I believe, last year's final round
on Easter Sunday. Yeah.
Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
What else are you gonna do? Sit at home?
Yeah, I'll be watching Tiger win it again. Can't wait.
Andy, sir,
too, because even like last year we were at conference, so like
yeah,
we didn't get to watch that fully. So
I didn't miss it. I refused to let myself miss it.
Yeah, so
I set my alarm that morning to get up early and watch it.
Yeah, which you're right, because the weather was pretty bad. So it was that Saturday? I forget which. I mean, it was Sunday too, but yeah, they did try to finish a little bit earlier because of the weather.
They started him early. He teed off at like 9 Eastern.
Okay, so that was Sunday.
Eastern,
yeah. So we did the same thing for our conference tournament, which was unusual. We don't normally do that.
Yeah, I was actually reading a story after the fact that I mean, I don't know what the weather in Augusta, Georgia. It's about 3 hours or so from here in Charlotte, and there was supposed to be a storm that day in Charlotte that never materialized. I understand that the storm in Augusta never materialized, which allowed him to actually go through the whole process of the trophy ceremony outside afterwards.
Yeah.
But he would not have been in the final group if they didn't go threesomes early. And so the whole stage was set because Augusta National chose to do something that broke from tradition that they are typically reluctant to do. And Tiger authored one of the great stories, the sports story of the year, and one of the great sports stories in our lifetimes.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, incredible.
All right, Andy. This was good.
Thank you.
Chopping it up with Andy Serk. We'll do it again soon. Hit him straight.
Yeah, you too. Can't wait to see you soon.
Thanks, man. See ya.
Yeah.